Good morning, everybody, to another Cute Session, Champions Using Teams Effectively, with your hosts, myself, Ricardo Wilkins, Stacy Mildenberger, and Nash Pearson, all here to help you geek out on Teams today. Come with your questions. We can try to help, put them in chat or come off mute, right? And even before we start, one cool little Teams thing I just thought about as I was adjusting meeting options to open the lobby so that people could come in. I was just realizing how many options are that meetings options is really starting to fill up, and really options in Teams in general. There's a lot of features. I don't know if you all who use Teams have been noticing that. With this particular session, I am able to control, obviously, who. So we turn off your video, right, just to make sure there's no oopses there, right? So I turn off attendees' video, but I leave attendees' cameras on. I control the lobby so that there's a point where we have to admit each person, but once I open it fully, people are coming in like there are as we speak. So there's a lot of options that are continuing to be added. There are more coming to you in the future. So I just thought that just kind of dawned on me that as you're using Teams and having more large meetings, please don't forget that meeting options button and all of the features that are there. I still do run across customers who haven't fully realized the value of the meeting options area. So definitely, if you're an organizer of meetings and haven't looked at that yet, definitely give that a look, because there's good stuff in there, and you will realize that you can have some control over those meetings such that you don't have to have those, what I heard a colleague once called sloppy meetings, right? People who are off mute and then, you act like you can't really figure out who it is or, what's going on. We got controls that can make especially a large meeting a little more manageable. So it's my little commercial here for the beginning, but as always, happy to see everybody there, and we're here for you. If you got some questions and want to come off mute, or let me start taking a look at chat. And yes, I see someone saw the shirt. Yes. So thanks, Barbara.
And Barbara kicked us off with a good question right off the bat. So Barbara's asking about the best way to share a recorded Teams meeting with somebody outside of the organization so that they can share the link with others, such as a link in a newsletter. And this gets to a really great starting point of like talking and teaching through the idea that when we record a meeting in Teams today, if it's a regular meeting, it's going to go into your OneDrive. So I'm just jumping in here with one of my government users here and looking at their OneDrive. And I don't know how other people usually get there. If I'm trying to get to the website, I always go to office.com/apps and then click on OneDrive, just because that's the path that I go through to get to this website. But there's a lot of different ways to get here. If you've got OneDrive synced locally, I suppose I often will right click on that and say, view online, and it'll pop me to this spot. But when we record meetings in Teams, we're going to see them automatically go to the recordings folder in OneDrive. And it's going to go to the person who initiated the recordings OneDrive, right? This is a recent change a couple months ago when we stopped recording to the stream service automatically. Well, one of the reasons we started sending recordings to OneDrive instead of Stream is that OneDrive supports things like sharing a lot better and in a way that everybody's already familiar with. So if I dig into my recordings folder, I'll see the one recording I've made with this user, and I'll see the little share button. By default, when you go to create a new link for sharing, it's going to be locked down to just the people you specify. But if I click this top text here, it'll give me all of the options, right? So you can create a link that anyone in your organization can use. You don't have to specify their name. Anybody within your, the people who show up in the global address list for your org would be able to use that link. But specifically, if your newsletter is going to people outside of the organization and you need to have a link that anybody can use, you'd use the anyone with link, right? So if I click this button here, I want to make sure I don't allow editing. My guess is you don't want anyone with that link to be able to go and change that file. You do have the option of whether or not you'll allow or block download, right?
And
so
Nash,
meeting, oh, go ahead.
Nash, would you would you agree that anyone with link is overwhelmingly usually blocked for most customers? That's what I've tend
Only
to
about
see.
a third of my customers say that
Okay.
you can't do this. So if you have a legitimate business need to be able to share with people broadly outside of the organization, then this would be a thing you would go and explain your business need and send it to your IT organization if they are blocking you from doing it today.
Because I
If they
would
come
say
back and
that's Yeah, I would say that's the one that is a little scary, right? I mean, if that does start getting, really broadly sent out, and maybe that the content you didn't mean for it to be that broadly. I mean, that's the wide open link, right?
yep.
So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean it's the thing that I equate to, hey, if I attached the file to the newsletter and sent it out, it's out. They can do whatever they want with that file. They can share it with anybody. That is what it is, right? If we're okay with that scenario of sending an attachment to an email where once it's out the door, it's out the door, my guess is they would be okay with this because we actually get a lot more control. I can actually go and take this permission away later, whereas with an email, with an attachment, can't take that away. It's gone. Once it's gone and in their
Absolutely.
hands, it's in their hands.
And that's a huge one right there. That really, to me, talks about the value of kind of committing to using OneDrive, not just for the recording that we're talking about here, but in general, right? We're taking it to the next level of just sharing things, attachments, and things in email. It really brings to light how non-controlled, or non-managed that old school process is versus when we have links. To your point, I can then kill that link, and stop the sharing of it, which I can't do once I kind of put something out there like an attachment. It's out there, forever.
Yep. There was a follow-up question from Michelle. What if the intended recipients attended the recorded event? Then you absolutely can go in and add them. However, when you record a meeting in Teams, it's automatically shared with the attendees who are internal to your organization. You'll have to go and intentionally go and add their name to the list of people who can see it if they're external attendees. So if you aren't going to go and do the broad sharing of everyone, assuming your organization allows you to share externally with OneDrive, you'd be able to go in here and add or share this with specific people outside of the organization. So specific people would allow me to go and do things like, add my Gmail account, right? And share it with people externally that way.
And on that point too, there's some nice things you don't realize even about that process until you do it. I mean, so what we just saw there, link sent, right? But I think in most cases you get an email kind of, I don't know if you're like CC'd on the email that the system sent to the person, but it seems, I believe you get an email that kind of lets you know that's been out there. And I think sometimes you even get an email that says this person has access to the resource, right? So it's not just I'll hit a button and the link is out there and I don't know what's going on. The system is trying to keep you up to date, as well as what Nash is showing here in terms of, or actually there's another pane in terms of activity on that asset. So you get some information about what's going on. Again, another level than what you would get if you just kind of threw an attachment out into the wild. Were you showing the more granular access here, Nash?
No, you were talking about some of the reporting, and I don't remember where that's at.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's
Details,
yeah, there you go.
activity.
Yep, activity. Yeah. To me, these are these little nuances that are missed, but that are valuable, I guess, depending on what the asset is. So yeah, but yeah, a lot of it right at that little circle I in the upper right corner. Good information there. And there you go, file statistics. I know in my years with customers, I get those kind of questions. How do I know if someone's done X, Y, and Z? And in the past with SharePoint, it was a little more cumbersome. And it's getting a lot more user friendly, in my opinion, over the years. So So that's awesome. The other thing about this whole sharing piece, especially if you have been doing this long enough to be coming from the world where it was streamed, is just really understanding, what this is allowing you to do in terms of flexibility, but also just making sure, you and your organization understand, make sure it still fits with whatever governance you had in mind. Some people may have found comfort in the fact that their recordings previously, were unable to be shared, right? They were in org only because they were in Stream, and Stream didn't have a kind of a public way to share those. So now understanding that it is in OneDrive, which is still, some degree locked down initially, but does have the option for being more broadly, discoverable. Just making sure that still fits with what you, what you and your organization want to do from a governance perspective.
Yeah, and if your IT organization has made governance decisions that say you're not allowed to share files externally, then they've made that decision. You can fairly go and ask them, all right, I have a legitimate business need to share it externally. How would you like us to go and do that? Because I'm assuming that if they've decided to go and turn off that functionality, that they had some alternative way that they intended you to do that. If not, great, it might spawn the conversation of either getting them to turn that feature back on or come up with the alternative way that they plan to let you do the things you need to do to get your job done.
So Nash, did you talk or maybe want to talk about the potential difference of a recording in a channel, like a channel meeting?
Yeah, so I threw some caveats out there when I said a normal Teams meeting that you go and record, meaning one you just booked from your calendar and Outlook or anything like that. The corollary to that is a channel meeting, right? And when we create channel meetings, channel meetings. When we create channel meetings, those are a little bit different than a regular meeting. The channel meeting is going to be hosted by a team. So if I go and grab an example team here and go to the general channel, we'll see the ability to meet right now with this team, as well as if I hit the drop down, the ability to schedule a channel meeting right from here. You can go and do this from the calendar in Teams as well, but this is usually the way that I end up doing it, right from that spot. And we'll see that it's going to flip us over to the calendar with a new meeting, and it's going to have pre-picked the team and channel that we're going to host this meeting in. Well, what's different about this meeting is that the chat for the meeting, instead of it being a group chat, is actually going to be occurring in the channel posts. Any files we share during that meeting, instead of being shared via OneDrive, they're going to go to the SharePoint site for that team. They're going to show up in the Files tab. When we go to record the meeting, instead of it recording to somebody's OneDrive, it's going to record to the channel, its Files folder. We'll end up getting our recordings in it. If that's the case, right, then by default, everybody in the team will automatically have access to that recording. And the general way that you would give other people access to that recording would either be make them a member of the team so that they can see all of the team's content, or you'd have to go and customize the sharing of that file inside of SharePoint on the back end. So, but that is the corner case. The overwhelming majority of meetings are just a standard Teams meeting. However, we do strongly encourage folks, as they're collaborating as part of a team, to try to make sure all of the communication and collaboration is in the context of the team, so that when somebody gets added to the team 6 months from now, things aren't locked up in somebody's email inbox. No, all the communication is available to the new team member. Somebody goes out on maternity or paternity leave, everything's there and organized in the channels when you get back, and you're able to get caught up in a way that isn't 4,000 unread emails all in your inbox. So anything more to add on that?
I was just going to say those 4,000 emails won't get read, right?
Select all and delete.
Right. The other piece to that, and you guys keep me honest, the scenario of now I've had this meeting and maybe there's chat still going post meeting and I've added someone to the chat. That is not the same as adding them to the assets in the chat, like the recording, right? So if there was a recorded meeting, which, like you said, the permissions for that recording are set to the people in the chat or the people who had attended. Someone I add a month later, I might want to add them to continue the conversation, but I don't think Teams assumes I'm giving them access to any of the files that were shared in that space, unless it's the channel meeting where I'm adding them to the team and thus they get access, right? So that one-off meeting or the typical Teams meeting, adding, if you're trying to give someone access to everything from that, I think it's adding them to the chat plus tweaking the access on a recording or even a file in that chat, right? Just something to keep in mind. It's good stuff.
I want to call out, so Barbara says she's working real diligently to help her group move over to conversations in Teams instead, to avoid the branching emails. Totally get it. There's a tipping point, right? When we gave people Teams, we didn't necessarily teach them what a team was or why it was valuable to them or how it would make them have 50% less email. So that behavior change, it does require a little bit of work. And while explaining the who, the what, and the how of a team is a great way to get people to start doing it, it still requires a behavior change. Microsoft, we all went through this, right? When I started at Microsoft in 2017, Teams was just coming out and all we did was email. And you know what it took? It took one or two people on our team to every email thread that got started, replying to it saying, hey, this is a great conversation. I've moved it over to Teams. Here's the link. And they go into Teams, they copy and paste the email text, and they go and grab the link and put that link in that email to everybody. So everybody's like, oh yeah, don't reply to this email, click the link and we'll reply there. Doing that 3 or 4 times is usually all it takes. But especially if you can get a second person to also do that, that's a great way to just keep redirecting people. God, forgive me for not knowing offhand. Do we have the send a Teams button in GCC yet? From Outlook to
From Outlook.
I don't think we do we? Let's go look. Let's go look. I don't remember. So let's go to Outlook. Someday we're going to just build that into a button in Teams. It might be there today. I don't think it is, but we'll double check.
We do have the share to Outlook from Teams.
Yeah.
That is there.
So someday there will be a button for going the other direction. It exists in commercial today, but does not exist in GCC, it looks like. So someday. For now, you can manually do it, right? Grab the text of the email, paste it into a new thread, grab the link, use that to paste into your reply to everybody.
Yeah, I think a few sessions back we did talk about, I feel like maybe 4 or 5 sessions back, ways to help get your team into Teams. So, just to that point of how do I get more of my conversations out of Outlook and into Teams? Tips like, being the evangelist, reminding them to bring it over, those kind of things, and then of course things like sharing to Teams, sharing from Teams to Outlook, that kind of thing. I will say, sharing, even when you finally get that button, sharing to Teams from Outlook. Sometimes I still do prefer to manually bring it over just because I want to control the formatting, make it look nice. I think when it does it kind of grabs a little snippet and then puts the email message as an attachment, which is good and comprehensive, but I'm just one of those folks that likes my stuff to be pretty. So, so I will sometimes copy the relevant parts, maybe even, insert images or whatever, because if I'm successful, I will be starting the new thread where all that conversation will now start to exist. I like it to just start off, nice and fresh.
Yeah, I can gonna say probably 3 out of 4 times I do the same, right? I'll just go and do the manual method versus using the button. The button's I think of it as my lazy button. This one's easy, go and done. Yeah, it's not exactly how I want it laid out, but it was something that got me started. I'm just gonna quick check the desktop apps here. So I checked the web app. I would have assumed it would have come to the web first if it was there, but you never know. So let me just quick grab a random one and see, do we have a send to Teams button? No, we do not. Someday we'll have that.
If you do happen to, be either watching this or be a user that is in commercial, then yes, that share to Teams button would be somewhere in your Outlook. And there, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just not in GCC yet. Someday.
No.
This one too. Someday.
Good stuff. All right. And while we have been talking about recordings and whatnot, there's a nice little conversation going in the chat about the lobby. So probably a little spinoff from my initial talk about the meeting options. Two things I'm pulling from that that are worth mentioning. That yes, you have a lobby where you can choose that everyone which basically opens it up. A key one, if you have ever been annoyed by continuing to hear or have the pop-ups about a new person is in, I mean, especially as the meeting starts, it can be a lot of pop-ups. And in fact, one best practice I've used and recommended is, even if you don't necessarily want the lobby, they're showing it here, even if you don't want the lobby open for everyone throughout the meeting, it may be good to open it initially just for that initial influx of dozens of people. And then when you feel like it's tapered off and pretty much everyone's in, then you can go back to closing it. And then, you may have to allow, a couple more people. But that's what's so nice about these options being real time. It's not like I choose that setting on the beginning and it's got to flow for the rest of the meeting. It's real time. I open it and save. Now I close it and save. And so you might save yourself some clicks there, but you certainly can open the lobby. And then I think Stacy was even mentioning the lock meeting feature as well. So if there is a point where you definitely don't want anybody else in, you got those options too. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these are the options available in GCC today. There is an option coming. There's a message center post about one that'll say the people I invited. So it'll only let the people who were the named calendar invite folks in by default. I don't recall off the top of my head when that's coming. Stacy, do you?
I don't recall either, but I know it's. Let me jump over. I'll look at the roadmap.
Okay. And the place that she's going to go probably look is in the Teams feature guide, where we kind of summarize the message center posts. And this gets updated every week or two.
And then the lock meeting feature we just mentioned, that's one that's actually not in the meeting options, but rather in the participants pane of your meeting. So if you were using a scenario I described, you've opened up the lobby, now you've closed it, now you want to really lock it down. Again, you're not going to the meeting options, now you're going to participants pane, right where the attendance piece is. And I think Nash is going to show it here.
I don't know that it exists in the web client.
You're in the browser. So, I'm in there. Yeah.
All right. Well, let me switch to the not browser.
Yep.
Bloop, bloop, bloop.
We have a November 2021 projection for that new lobby setting for people I invite.
Yeah. Good to know. All right, so the participants pane and then the ... in the upper right-hand corner, right?
Yeah, for some reason, you're not seeing it.
It is a channel meeting. That's probably why.
Okay, let me share mine real quick.
And
You have it?
not only is it a channel meeting, but it's a channel or a team I'm not even a member of anymore.
Okay, I'll share mine real quick.
Thank you.
It's just a meeting I got going on here, and I just fired it up from the Meet Now. And so you see the participants pane, and lock meeting is there. Right. So it's where attendance lists, for some other permissions, and lock meeting, which is different from the meeting options, which I'm just such a big fan of. So there you go. I don't know if I'd be as big a fan if it wasn't for that fact of that real time. If it was just set it and forget it at the beginning, that would probably be annoying to me. But being able to change that on the fly is just super helpful. To the point that again, that sloppy meeting concept, I sometimes don't get when I'm in a meeting and there is challenges with people not being on mute or too many videos on or whatever. I don't understand why the organizer doesn't just hit those meeting options and just, set it. I don't know. I'm a big meeting options fan. So good stuff. We got a couple more minutes here. Super glad to see everybody joining us today from everywhere. We can kind of tell from some of the names, we got folks from all over the country in this meeting. That's good stuff. So feel free to come off mute or just keep the chat going. If you're watching on demand, that's what you're missing by not joining us Friday. At least today, I can't bring you that experience. So for the on-demand people.
Thank you for the discussion on the meeting options. We do like to lock it down at the beginning just so the presenters can discuss what's coming up.
Yep.
But then to open it up again so they're not getting that pop-up in their face all the time is great. So thank you.
Yeah. And I believe there is even a green room option coming in the future. Am I right about that? I remember reading something about that, maybe even in the guide we just talked about, but I don't know exactly how that'll work, but I know I've read about that concept, so that'll be interesting too.
Yeah, there's all kinds of exciting things coming.
Yeah,
No doubt.
for sure.